not everyone understands your struggle.
Yeah.
And then ultimately, when you break out of the barriers and your art becomes international and there is this value attached to it, you know?
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are watching this episode. I'm still here, your host, Dr. Gamuchrai Mutezo. And as always, it's a pleasure not to waste a single story. Today's episode has come a long way, almost 8 years worth of waiting. 8 years of waiting. I have a special friend, I have an industry disruptor, I have a thought leader on the green couch, and I'm super excited because our worlds are totally different. When we were introduced, it was because of our pedantic like of things. Yeah, I remember that day quite clearly. And there are some people you meet in life, you don't need to think twice, it's just automatic, you flow. The conversations that we've had over this period have been those that have built us to be the people that we are within our respective spaces. And I'm really excited to look at a specific component, which is her area of expertise, actuarial sciences, because many a night we would have wine flowing, beanbags going, and just seeing how some of our worlds collide. Memory Zimba, welcome to the Green Couch.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so delighted that you made it. You made it.
It's good to be here.
All right. I usually start off by asking my guests something a little gentle so that people can note that behind this beast of a woman, there is just a human being. There is just a human being. So who is Memory Zimba? Why does she exist? And what does she enjoy doing for fun?
I think I was reminded very recently on Wednesday, we had the University of Johannesburg breakfast for actuarial prospective students, and one of the ladies there spoke about her journey coming from Limpopo and finding herself in this environment where she was just so scared, and then she saw the possibilities. I think that really summarized my own journey and who I am at my core. I think from our interactions, you know that if you take me to the village, I'm home.
This is a whole village woman sitting here.
So this is a village girl,
Yeah.
who really still appreciates the value of going back to the roots, to an environment where there's not as much pressure as what we feel and experience, particularly here in Joburg. I'm an adventurer at heart. We've been roller derbying, we've done many things, we've done mountain climbing, and my friends have been generous enough to come along for the ride. So I'm an adventurer, but above all, I think I am an empowerer. I think very early on in my life, I always said I do not want to be an oxygen thief.
You're the one who gave me that oxygen thief. Yeah.
I think it is without reason that God can take me from a village to a city and then be one of very few Black females who has this qualification, that is a fellow of the Actuarial Society of South Africa. But what excited me most about that profession is the idea that you can use the past to shape the future. It's our future, literally reimagined, if I'm borrowing from the University of Johannesburg. And the goodness is that you then get surrounded by people who are also going to the same destination, who will carry you at a stage when you're not able to even see the vision. And that's why I'm so proud of my association with the University of Johannesburg. I'm a research associate there. I never saw myself in research. I think you know my
I will not expose you.
propensity for writing long English, as I put
I
it.
will not expose
Many
you.
5,000 words. So I think I'm also an opportunist in terms of whenever there is an opportunity to make an impact, to contribute, whether it's through Inspiring Paradigm Shift, my first live mentorship, or it's applying these principles we've learned in the academic place and making them practical. So I think one of the things that's really exciting for me is using these degrees, these academic things that we've learned in the real world and seeing it create those fruits that you see something reimagined, something that was nothing. You think about it and then you create. And I think that's where I then picked up my passion for fashion. Because I also realized that a lot of people, we have brilliant people in the African continent. However, because they don't have that sense of who I am, because they don't wake up every day looking in the mirror and seeing that hero, we're looking to the Supermans or superwomen of this world, but we don't see that superness within ourselves. So that's why I thought, let's design garments that when somebody wakes up, like you are really looking like a queen.
Stop it.
So if
Thank
in your
you.
everyday life, when you wake up, you're seeing a queen, you show up differently. And actually with the spirit of a queen, with the spirit of a warrioress, shows up a lot more strongly and makes an impact a lot more deliberately than somebody who is unsure of themselves. When you know you're capable, when you know you don't need to be perfect, in fact, I was reminded to be capable, you're then able to step into your purpose, and then you're then able to make an impact. You're then able to reimagine what we're seeing into something more amazing, more beautiful. And in that way, that's how we grow. I think society, for some part, has been taught not to want, that desiring too much, being too ambitious is a bad thing. But that's how creation started, desiring to give more, to split the night and the light and create an ecosystem that you always talk about of day and night, where we bloom in the sunshine and we rest in the dark. All of them are important.
I almost feel like saying amen. I love all the points you're mentioning, because for a individual who's watching this episode, they could be in the STEM space, which is science, technology, or rather STEAM. Science, technology, engineering, art, maths. It actually has an I, and innovation. Wondering, what path am I going to be limited to a specific degree? Can I evolve and do something else? You've got that actuarial background. You are evolving into a person who equally inspires tomorrow's decision makers to think differently out of the box. And you are living it yourself, because you've gone as far as saying, look, 8 to 5, I crack numbers. After 5, I actually do what I love, and that's the fashion component. So that's really, really a powerful thing to start off this conversation. Let's stick to the actuarial component a bit, and I want to bring in the concept of sustainability. So you're growing up in the village. Who exposed you to this thing called actuarial science on one hand? And secondly, during that growth period, were you exposed to elements of sustainability, environmental protection, waste management, and all those interesting concepts?
I think one of the things that can trip a person up is the use of these words. Sustainability. You think it's something big, but it's something we've been doing on a day-to-day. In the village, when all those plastics are gathered, what is created? For the sacks, a soccer ball.
Yes.
We create a soccer ball.
Yeah.
The clay, for example, that we would play in, would make dolls, because we couldn't afford to be bought those plastic dolls. So we created our own. That's things that came out of, for example, plastering a hat where we used to sleep. That's already, those are the elements that are coming in on a day-to-day. When they plow the fields and the waste from the maize crops, I discovered very recently that it's not every vegetable that you remove from the ground. When I was trying to pluck my peppers out of my garden, I didn't know that they grow more than once a year. You plow it back and then you use it as fertilizer. I think when I came to UJ and I saw some of the work that they're doing in terms of making compost, I was really, really inspiring. But actuarial science I really discovered in high school from a very vain perspective. One of my sisters, my friend, MTN, they used to call us the MTN sisters, Memory to Tabileng, said there's this thing called actuarial science, and only the smartest people did it. So with vanity, I said, I'm going to do this so that I can show the world that I am extremely, extremely smart. I saw flames.
That's the complete opposite.
I saw flames. But even before that, and I think I've only picked up this now, because my friend's son graduated or finished university with, I think, 7 distinctions.
Okay.
And I used to think I was an A student, I was smart. The reality is I got out of varsity or high school with 1 distinction. So I didn't even qualify to do actuarial science when I went to Wits University. But the seed had been planted. I was going to be an actuary, and that's the power of a focused mind. So I went and I asked the lecturer, what do I need to do to come into actuarial science? And he said, go and get 70% for maths. On the dot, if you look at my transcript, 70%, and I got into actuarial science. To your point about always reinventing yourself, actuarial science opened every weakness that I could possibly have been hiding and then exposed it to myself, first of all, and what I thought was to the world.
Yeah.
Getting less than 50. I was having conversations with my dad on the phone, and he'll be asking me, why are you so stressed? Why are you crying so much? What's the pass mark? It's 50. Aim for 51. Most parents would say study, but that wasn't it. So eventually I qualified. I finished university. I failed a year, and then I took a gap year to discover really what is the essence of Memory Zimba. It's very difficult to show up whole when you don't know the fullness of who you are. So in Dubai, I saw people making money from waitressing, things like hotel management that didn't require as much of the mathematics. And I thought I could do that and really make a lot of money. But then I thought back to the legacy. And even today, in terms of some of the things I'm doing outside of the actuarial space, it's the legacy. I specialize ultimately in risk management. I'm a chartered enterprise risk actuary because I could see how these numbers translated in the real world. It's taking that strategy that a business might have, creating a culture that enables that strategy, and then making sure that you have all the things in place, looking at your resources, because we have a limited amount of resources, whether it's human capital or what's sitting in the bank. And you plan using those things to ensure you position yourself in the best position to achieve those goals, while at the same time, and this is what a lot of people seem to emphasize when it comes to risk, they think it's the downside. It's preventing that catastrophe, or should that catastrophe happen, they can recover. That is part and parcel of it, yes, but that's the smaller part of it.
Yeah.
You're chasing a vision. There's nothing that you do in this life that does not require risk, but that risk is an opportunity. So for me, risk management is enabling opportunities. And I think that's where sustainability came in. I saw a billboard by, I think it was RMA, where they broke down sustainability into sustain and ability. For as long as you're alive, for as long as you want to see tomorrow, you must have the ability to sustain what we have and multiply it.
Okay.
So for me, actuarial science gives us the science of how we can use the data, our past experiences, and we can look into the future, taking into consideration things that might go wrong, planning for them so that we're not caught off guard. I think COVID caught some people off guard, but the companies that were already open to the idea of a hybrid working model were not that impacted because people could use their laptops to work from home. That infrastructure has already been built. So when we're looking to the future, climate change is a real thing. It's not something that's happening there, way. And as a new friend of mine just said, it impacts the weakest and the most vulnerable. Some of us might be able to afford solar panels to put in and get off the grid, but there are people who cannot. There's hospitals in areas where they do not have the economy to be able to make these big changes. But it doesn't mean people don't need doctors. People don't need that treatment. That needs to happen. And if I can use my degree, not as a crutch, because that's what we tend to do. We tend to get this degree and then go and sit in front of the computer and do as you're told. If I can see myself as somebody who can make an impact, suddenly when I'm driving, I'm seeing the possibilities out there. It's funny that when somebody buys a car, when you bought your car, I started seeing it everywhere. But before then, I didn't see it.
Yeah.
When you open your mind up, the brain naturally starts finding new pathways. As much as we're saying my 8 to 5 is actuarial science and thereafter I'm doing fashion, they're all very intertwined. The being in a different space, seeing things in a different way allows me to problem solve in my 8 to 5 and come up with solutions outside of if I didn't do that. If you think about the biggest inventions, wasn't that scientist struck by lightning, gravity with an apple falling? That's the reality of life, but we tend to want to silo ourselves. I'm a big dreamer. That's one thing that I lost in my varsity career while I was seeing those flames,
Yeah.
that now I'm really fully embracing. Everything starts with imagination. It starts with the mind.
That's probably the crux of our chat today. On one side, you were practicing these principles of sustainability without knowing, because you don't have a soccer ball. So it was more of necessity based than it was innovation based. On the other side, you are wading through the waters of actuarial sciences. And we've had so many beautiful conversations where these two worlds collide, because we started seeing that as much as you may have this actuarial degree, and that's one of the programs I also want you to unpack, particularly for the young ones who are wondering where the next best opportunities lie once I'm done with my actuarial degree. We started unpacking how best do we use, whether it's insurance principles, risk principles, fundraising models, to ensure that we are part of this change, particularly within the green space.
In risk management, particularly in big organizations, there might be a tendency out of the ease with which it comes with of saying risk is the problem of the risk management function.
Yeah.
But the reality is every single individual has a role to play. And that's why when I speak about risk management being centered around culture, that is critical, because if every single individual does what they specialize in really, really well, and then the management together with their risk management functions connect those dots together to look at the picture as a whole, you then start seeing the interplays. You start seeing when two things come together, they make something bigger. And it could be bigger in terms of opportunity, but it also could be bigger in terms of some of the risks that you're taking on the downside part.
Yeah.
But then there's also a thing called diversification, where when you bring two parts together, the sum of the two is less, so that you might need less money because you're leveraging off of two streams of income that complement each other, for example. So actuarial science is really something that is very, very exciting. And if you are a young person who loves mathematics, I can't tell you that just because you're good at mathematics, you'll be good at actuarial science. That is the part where I saw flames.
Prepare to meet your ancestors.
Prepare to have conversations with your ancestors. Because in that exam, when you're looking at that paper and you're looking at that question, and even before you answer that exam, one of the most amazing things that now that I understand better, I can say, gosh, things really are connected depending on how you train your mind to look at problems. You will look at the question. You didn't see it in the textbook. In which case, you want to commune with your ancestors in those moments if it's an exam to get the answers there. You then look at the answer. How can this question be the answer? How can this answer be the one for this question? But then as you mature, as you see more things, as you get exposure, and that's why in African culture, you should always respect your elders.
Yes.
Their experience and the things they've seen allows them to see things that you cannot possibly imagine. I'm reminded of a little kid.
Yeah.
Little kids are always shocked that the mother knows what they're doing, but it's like they've got eyes at the back of their heads. No, it comes from experience and having walked that journey. So if you are a young person who wants to look at history, look at the data, what it's telling you, numbers never lie. And I think that's why they tend to be the foundation of a lot of things.
Yeah.
Numbers do not lie. But if you're then able to take those numbers and then use them to make an impact in the world, one of the actuaries that really fascinated me was an actuary who is in construction.
Oh, okay.
And he was doing risk management in construction.
Yeah.
An area I'm particularly very curious to enter is in mining. Actuaries working in mining. Why? Because when you look at the very foundation of what actuarial science is, it's the actuarial control cycle or the enterprise risk management cycle, where you start by scanning the environment. Currently, we are experiencing climate change. It's a thing that's going to change how we do things. on the African continent, where we don't have as much resources in terms of money, it's going to impact us the most. We might not be able to get that insulation that we need. There might be people sleeping in very vulnerable places in terms of flooding. We saw in South Africa the KZN floods, what they did, on what they're doing even now in terms of some of the floods we're experiencing. If you go to America, the LA fires, the devastation that they caused. So these things are happening. That's the environment we are living in. You can't ignore that. You can choose to put your head in the sand, but it doesn't mean that it's not going to impact you.
Okay, I'll interject here with a particular question. Basically, you can have an actuarial science degree and enter into any sector, any industry. I'm just trying to imagine an actuary in climate change. What will they be calculating? Like, what are you doing?
The University of Johannesburg Department Statistics Department has actually put out a paper on climate change.
Yeah.
I think I'll share that with you. Climate change, we're seeing temperatures increasing.
Yeah.
We can model that. We can look at the trend in terms of what has happened to be able to say where it might even be, where we might see the highest impact. That's using numbers. Forecasting is one of the things actuaries do really, really well, projecting what might happen in the future. When you then combine that, and that's where creating an ecosystem where different disciplines come together really then creates something really powerful. People like yourselves will then say to us, part of the reasons we could potentially see devastation in Sandton is because we're not managing our waste we're not cleaning our drainages. Water is a big thing in terms of pipes. This is where you come in. One of the most exciting things I think I've had the privilege of working with you on is the idea that all the waste that's produced within this rich square mile in the Sandton area can be used to create fuel in terms of biogas that can power or enable communities around us. The communities like Alexander that are very close to these very rich areas, we can do that. If we can get actuaries modeling, seeing how much waste is produced, then there's also the idea of creating compost. That waste, food waste in particular, combined with some of the waste that comes from the agricultural sector. Within the insurance fraternity, we're providing cover for that. But the waste that comes out of that, we can tap into that and make sure that it goes into places like the research center in Irene that you're looking into, to then combine that and create compost. We're now looking at compost being produced in 24 hours instead of the 3 months that's exciting. That's really exciting. And actuaries can be part of that model. How can we improve that? We can look at how these machines are working. We can look at ensuring that should that machine break down, you have the capital funding in terms of insurance cover to replace it. We can look at the life cycle so there's better planning in terms of maintenance and in terms of then replacing it, and making sure that when you are doing your budgeting process, you allocate funds each month so that by the time that machine goes out of commission, you're then able to buy a new one. And in case of flood, lightning, whatever might happen, you have the cover that will then enable you to continue trading. I think insurance is one of the most underestimated assets that we have on the African continent to create generational wealth. I might never be able to give you R1 million in my lifetime. We were in the private jet club.
Oh, okay,
fine. That.
Thank you very much.
I retract that, but I'm speaking to the people out there, the people who are going to be watching this. You might not be able to see yourself being able to give that R1 million while you're living. But if you get life cover, not funeral cover, that pays for your funeral only, because once you pass on, you must continue a legacy. That R1 million could then enable, and I saw it in real life when my friend's mom passed away from breast cancer very early on. But she took them through school. 3 children went through school as a consequence of that. That's ecosystems working together to be able to create the ability to sustain. Now you don't just have parents that are educated and one passes on, you're not able to meet the financial obligation. you educate all your kids. That's sustainability in action from a social perspective.
There's so many beautiful points you've mentioned. I mean, one of the most interesting one is, as a practitioner in my space, I can work with an actuarial scientist for modeling and forecasting. You guys are basically corporate sangomas, if you put it like that. Sangomas with a degree forecasting.
We received.
Yes, because a lot of the time when entrepreneurs try to set up something within the entire green space, we also see our ancestors, because the modeling, the projections and whatnot is not the easiest, especially where data collection is an issue. And in the same breath, I'm putting myself in the shoes of a STEM student who's wondering, what can I then specialize in tomorrow? If a certain big bank or a certain insurance company does not take me, there are then opportunities in the sustainability space to explore. And in addition to that, your point around life insurance is fascinating, because we have not always had these conversations of what do you actually use that money for? You can use it to invest in starting something. So knowing how to use some of these insurance, shall we call them packages?
Mm-hmm.
On a personal level and on a business level, that's quite a bit of food for thought. Yeah, I like that. Okay, let's go a little bit. You're in this space and then you got into fashion. How? What happened? What are you doing?
So again, that's the risk management coming in.
Mm.
COVID, you pick up a lot of weight, and for a lot of young women,
Please repeat.
it's COVID. You're sitting at home, you're eating with Dr. Gabu.
A friendly.
While you're recycling your packages. Although we did used to walk,
Yeah.
I picked up a lot of weight, and I think I realized to say I've been on diets in practically my whole life.
Mm.
I had to stop and pause, because now my clothes are not fitting me anymore. And when you go shopping, things don't fit you because you're dressing for the body you used to have, not the body you have. So what happens? You start bringing in this limiting beliefs. The imposter syndrome kicks in.
Yeah.
And then I said, no more. No more. When I look at West Africans, you are in a beautiful Igbo attire there. Their shape doesn't matter. They dress themselves up. They dress their shape. And when they show up, they say, I've arrived. You know, I wanted to make sure that every individual, particularly starting with myself, that when I wake up in the morning and I put on a garment, I feel that I can. I feel like I have the ability to do anything I want. So designing clothes, but also making the clothes that I already have bigger. My friend said, oh, you gained weight. Just make your clothes bigger. Problem solved. That's what I did. So this jacket that I'm wearing is a jacket that I used to wear when I was a smaller size.
Yeah.
At the back there, we've put in shosho to make it a little bit bigger. And it's literally applying the principle of risk management with combining with psychocybernetics, which is self-image. Again, the environment was my clothes do not fit. What is the solution that is the most cost effective to solve this problem? The bigger problem isn't that the clothes are not fitting, it's how I'm feeling about myself.
Interjection. So you are busy doing this without realizing you are practicing certain principles of a circular economy. The psycho word that you mentioned was the focus point, yet incorporating various pieces into this new piece. In my perspective, that is waste diversion. That is job creation. That is new market development. And that's where the beauty lies in all of these interdisciplinary conversations. Because unless you have conversations like this, you wouldn't realize that you are part of a certain change that's taking place.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It is so important to make sure that you surround yourself with people who are going to unlock new pathways of thinking. Because when you are actually doing the problem solving, you're not going to consciously be thinking about these words that keep flying around, like creating ecosystems. You're not going to be thinking about sustainability. You will just be trying to solve the problem of, I need to get out of my house and I need to feel good about myself, because when I stand up in front of people, if I feel good, if I believe in myself because I like what I'm seeing the future Memory that is a businesswoman, an entrepreneur, an innovator. If you have the wardrobe that makes you feel that way when you leave that house, package it with a bit of music, and that's where the art then comes in. By the time you're entering that workspace and you're standing in front of Dr. Gamuchirai
Wow.
Mutezo, you're able to
Yes,
say,
spicy.
I am capable, I can do this. And that's why it's really, really important to surround yourself with people who are gonna introduce you to new things, because you start seeing the connections with those things and you start being a part of something bigger.
Yeah.
And that's where the impact really becomes exciting. There's a saying in I don't even know if it's it's a definitely an authentic African saying to say, if you want to move fast, go alone. But if you really want to go far, you go together. But unless you surround yourself with a tribe that is in the same trajectory, going in the same direction, you'll become very confused. Your ancestors won't talk to you in
They'll
those
even be
exams.
buffering. There'll be like network buffering. It's not make sure. Okay. So as we wrap up, we've got a audience of young people in universities. We've got kids who watch this, because that's the whole point of breaking down some of these principles for the kids to easily consume. We've got decision makers who sit in insurance companies, who sit in waste generation companies. What is that one thing that you want to leave with them? Something that will shape their mindset towards a particular direction.
The book Atomic Habits by James Clear comes to mind. It's small changes, remarkable results. That's how I approached my own actuarial journey. I left university only with one exemption. Statistically speaking,
No pun intended.
the likelihood of me qualifying was very low. Do not let your past result determine your potential. That fear, that anxiety you're feeling when you're looking at your dreams and they seem bigger than what you seem to be capable of based on your history. Don't believe that. That's the fear coming from your conditioning. It's not a reflection of who you can become. It's not a reflection of your potential. I say African child, and that African child is not just the person who looks like me. It's anybody who was brought up on the African soil, who sees value in Africa. African child. You have the capability to change the world. Me, who got a 54% in mathematics, matric, I'm a qualified actuary. And even if you are that qualified actuary, you are a leader. First of all, I'd like to say, do not put actuaries in boxes and think we're only going to do your modeling.
Okay, fine.
Our training says we can combine economics, we can combine finance, accounting also should be flames. But there it is. I can balance a balance sheet. I can look at an income statement. I can think holistically about a problem and make sure that that strategic objective we're trying to meet is achieved. Expose these actuaries. You have access to these brilliant minds that you need to exploit, but show them the world. Show them what they are capable of. Once you can see you are able, sustainability of your own self, the power and the level of impact you then have is multiplied. So if you're sitting there and you're sitting in front of your desk, look around you. There's a big world, and that big world needs you to problem solve for the things that are going to make our future brighter. It's our future. Let's reimagine it to what we want it to be. For me personally, that's a private jet. I want to be able to be so wealthy that when there's a problem in Africa, I'm not trying to find where the money is coming from. I have that money that is raised from creating jobs, from collaborating with minds like yourselves. Because as we create these solutions, Bill Gates, for example, did not produce a computer because he wanted to be wealthy. It has resulted in wealth because he was solving a problem that it's only people with a lot of money who could have a computer. They wanted to make sure that any individual could have a computer because it was an enabler. When you start solving for African problems. You start creating wealth, because when you give service, you will always get back more than you give in. Trust in yourself. Believe in yourself. We come from a strong heritage. We come from powerful people in terms of, if I just think of Shaka Zulu, if you think about his beginning, that doubt that you're feeling, that uncertainty that you're feeling, that's an indication that you're becoming. Listen to that voice and see what you need to do. You might start off with a single step, but as a colleague recently reminded me, there's somebody else behind you watching that stuff. There are little people watching what you do for those in leadership seats. And they're measuring those steps. So if you can make sure that every step you take forward, you are leaving something for the next person to pick up. It's not every idea that we come up with that we're going to be able to complete in terms of the final product. But if we can always carry other people along with us, somebody will complete it. And when it's complete, we all benefit. That is the African story. We no longer can be reliant on aid from somewhere else. In our individual capacity, where you're sitting, whatever it is you're in, whether you are that person picking up that recycling in the streets and we're seeing you every morning doing that, do that with pride. Somebody somewhere or someone somewhere, you collaborate with that person and you make money. The people who have the largest amount of wealth didn't always start off trying to create that wealth.
Yeah.
They started with trying to solve a problem. And it's not that you must go to the neighbor and start solving their problems.
I'm thinking of my neighbor who's got problems.
No, start with the things at home.
Yeah.
And you build on that. Small changes compound, and then you have a bigger result. You can make an impact. You are capable. If you're already at varsity, the fact that you made it to that level says you can do more. I will leave with our always principle that guides us in terms of when our own power fails. God did not bring you this far to leave you here. That saying, when I was writing that exam for the bedtime, I remembered, God, please, I know you didn't bring me here to leave me here.
Yeah.
It's only the beginning. You are capable and you can make an impact. Believe it. And you will find people around you that will enable you.
I love my job. I really do. Because with every episode, irrespective of having been in this space of entrepreneurship and what for 14, 15 years, I always get inspired. I get gingered. And this is how I end up working on a Saturday afternoon. I'm like, I can do it. Or rather, I can did it. I want to change the world right now. Memory, thank you so much for sharing these nuggets. That's the whole purpose of having the Green Couch, because we've been privileged to have such conversations, to intentionally say we want to be part of the change in our respective spaces. And importantly, to show that irrespective of you knowing your expertise, we can still cross-pollinate. Let us not be limited or restricted by a certain environment. Any opportunity to shift mindsets, any opportunity to inspire, any opportunity to trial, test, and prototype, we shoot our shots. And it starts by us poking each other's minds and seeing where these opportunities and occasional humps, don't like we're using the word challenge because challenges will always be there, but occasional humps come through. So as I always say, I encourage everyone who watches this episode that listen to it with your kids. Listen to it during your lunch breaks, during your smoke breaks as well, during your date nights with your partner, because all of us are responsible for what we are enduring. The decisions that you are making in your institutions, it is us. We cannot say it's a certain institution. It is us. It has to start with us, and it starts with these mindset shifting conversations. And so we make sure that we do not waste a single story. Until the next episode, Memory Zimba, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Goodbye. Okay.
Nothing comes so easy. It makes you, they always say the best things in life are free. And it just needs you to show that extra effort and you will get it.
Yes.